It's a warm night in 1976. Four friends, young, adventurous, and full of life, are camping deep in the Allagash wilderness of Maine. They're miles from civilization, surrounded by dense forests and still waters. As they paddle their canoe under a star-filled sky, they spot something strange, a glowing object hovering silently above the treetops. They signal it with a flashlight, and suddenly a beam of light engulfs them. Then, nothing. Hours vanish in an instant. When they return to shore, their campfire is nearly dead, and they have no memory of what happened. But years later, under hypnosis, a horrifying story emerges. One of alien abduction, medical experiments, and a mystery that's haunted them for decades. I'm John Genoa, host of America's Strangest History, and today we're unraveling one of the most chilling and controversial UFO cases ever recorded: the Allagash abductions. Let's meet the four men at the heart of this mystery. Jim and Jack Weiner, twin brothers with a mutual love for nature and adventure. There's Charlie Foltz, a reflective artist, and Chuck Rack, kind of a free-spirited dreamer. All in their 20s, they were either students or recent graduates of the Massachusetts College of Art and Design. In August 1976, they traded the bustle of Boston for the solitude of the Allagash Wilderness Waterway. It's a pristine, rugged expanse in northern Maine known for its untouched beauty and profound isolation. The Allagash isn't for the faint of heart, in case the profound isolation didn't clue you in. It's a labyrinth of forests, rivers, lakes, with no roads or towns for miles. In 1976, it was even more remote. No cell phones, no GPS, just a compass and a map. For these four friends, it was the perfect escape. But on the night of August 20th, their idyllic retreat turned into a nightmare. It started innocently enough. Around 9 p.m., while fishing on Eagle Lake, they noticed a bright glowing object in the sky. At first, they thought it might be a plane or a particularly bright shooting star, but it didn't move like either. It hovered, darted, and pulsed with an unnatural light. They watched it for a few minutes, but it disappeared behind trees. Unnerved but curious, they returned to camp and tried to shake it off. Later that night, restless and eager to fish under the moonlight, they climbed back into their canoe. That's when the object reappeared, closer this time. Now its light more super intense. Charlie Foltz, intrigued, grabbed his flashlight and flashed it 3 times towards the sky. What happened next is remarkable. The object responded. A beam of light shot down, bathing the canoe in a blinding glow. The men froze, their hearts pounding as the world around them seemed to dissolve. Their next memory is jarring. They're back on shore, dazed and disoriented. The campfire, which had been blazing when they set out, was now reduced to smoldering embers. Hours had passed, yet to them it felt like minutes. They couldn't explain the gap in time. Shaken but unsure what to do, they packed up the next day and left the wilderness, burying the incident in the back of their minds. It didn't stay buried forever. Years passed, and in 1988, Jim Weiner began having nightmares. Vivid, terrifying visions of being strapped down, surrounded by beings with large, almond-shaped eyes and gray, featureless skin.
All I remember is seeing vague figures, anthropomorphic in shape, but they did not seem human to me.
He'd wake up sweating, convinced these weren't just dreams, but fragments of something real. Desperate for clarity, he reached out to UFO researcher Raymond E. Fowler, a respected figure in the field. Fowler listened to Jim's story and suggested hypnosis might unlock what his mind was hiding. Fowler organized separate hypnosis sessions for all four men with hypnotherapist Tony Constantino. What emerged was staggering and consistent. Each man, without hearing the other's accounts, described being lifted from the canoe into a spacecraft. They recall being examined by gray aliens, probed, sampled, their skin fluids taken in cold clinical procedures. Jim spoke of a metallic table and a sense of paralysis. Jack described needles piercing his skin. Charlie and Chuck reported similar details themselves. When asked, all produced sketches of the same beings and ship. Their stories aligned so precisely it was hard to dismiss. They produced drawings that matched the now iconic images of gray aliens, tall, thin, with oversized heads and unblinking eyes. But hypnosis is tricky. It can unearth repressed trauma, but it can also plant false memories, especially if influenced by sci-fi tropes. By 1976, movies like Close Encounters of the Third Kind were shaping how people imagined alien encounters. It boils down to, were these memories real or a product of suggestion? Let's dig into the investigation. After the hypnosis sessions, Fowler brought in experts to test the men's claims. First up, polygraph tests, and all 4 passed. Their responses showed no signs of deception. Now, polygraphs aren't infallible, but they at least suggested the men believed their stories. Next, Harvard psychiatrist Dr. John Mack, a leading figure in abduction research, interviewed them. Mack, who'd studied dozens of similar cases, found their emotional reactions and consistency particularly compelling. He concluded they weren't delusional or seeking attention. Then there's the multi-witness factor. Unlike most abduction cases, this one had 4 people who all saw the UFO and experienced missing time. That's rare and hard to fake. Plus, other campers in the Allagash reported strange lights that night, logged in local UFO sighting records. A Reddit thread cites a 1976 Maine newspaper clipping about unexplained lights near Eagle Lake. This corroborates to some extent the men's story. But the evidence isn't airtight. There's no physical proof. No UFO wreckage, no alien tech, no marks on the bodies beyond what they described in hypnosis. So skeptics pounced on the hypnosis itself. Psychologist Dr. William Cohn, a staunch critic of abduction claims, argues that hypnotists can unintentionally lead subjects to remember what fits a narrative. The men's gray aliens matched the pop culture stereotype, which fueled doubts. Still, Fowler and Mack stood by the case, pointing to the men's trauma as evidence of something real. In 2016, the story cracked open. Chuck Rack, one of the 4, gave an interview claiming the abduction was a hoax. He admitted they saw lights, but fabricated the abduction for money and fame. He even said they smoked a little cannabis that night, hinting that their perception may have been impaired. This was a bombshell. After 40 years, one of the witnesses flipped the script. The others, Jim, Jack, and Charlie, pushed back hard. They called Rack a liar, insisting their experiences were genuine and that he'd caved to pressure or embarrassment. On Reddit's Alien Encounters, users debate this split. One wrote, "Rack's confession smells like damage control. Why stick to a story for decades if it's fake?" Another countered, "He's the only one brave enough to admit the grift." So, who's telling the truth? Skeptics also point to the setting. The 1970s were peak Cold War time, and Maine hosted military bases like Loring Air Force Base. Could the lights have been a secret test flight? Or maybe ball lightning, a rare electrical phenomenon? These ideas explain a UFO, but the missing time or abduction memories? The investigation hit a wall. Compelling testimony on one side, no hard proof on the other. Let's break down the theories. Alien abduction. The men's sincerity, their matching stories, the polygraph results, and their genuine emotions support this. Multiple witnesses and regional UFO reports bolster it, but without physical evidence, it's just speculation. A hoax. Rack's confession is damning, and the lack of evidence fits a made-up tale. They could have parlayed it into a book deal or a TV spot. In fact, Unsolved Mysteries featured them in a 1994 episode. But why did the others never crack? And how did they all fake the polygraphs? Psychological phenomenon. Maybe it was a shared delusion, sparked by stress or suggestion, then cemented by hypnosis. False memory syndrome is real. Studies show groups can convince themselves of events that never happened. But the detail and consistency in this instance kind of rules this out as a slam dunk. Again, speculation. misidentification. Military craft or natural events like ball lightning could explain the lights, but this doesn't cover up the missing time or the abduction specifics. Plus, when it boils down to it, the whole ball lightning thing is pretty rare and completely different, to be honest. A hybrid theory. Perhaps they saw something real, a UFO, a plane, whatever, and their minds, aided by hypnosis and culture, built the abduction around it. This bridges Rack's claim with the other's conviction, but again, it's still speculation. The Allagash abductions endure as a UFO legend. On Reddit's UFOs, one user tied it to a 1970s Maine sighting spike, asking, was Allagash a hotspot? Another called Hypnosis a memory meat grinder, dismissing the case outright. The truth, for now, remains elusive. For Jim, Jack, and Charlie, there's no debate. It's reality. Rack's retraction can't erase their trauma. Besides, why did he retract after 40 years? So was it aliens, a lie, a trick of the mind? Maybe all three plus a little bit too much weed. And that's where we'll leave it. What do you think happened here? What are we dealing with, and why did Rack recant? Hit us up in the comments below. Please like and subscribe. I'm John Genoa, and this is America's Strangest History. Thanks for watching.